All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games for the upcoming weekend in the world of college football. And I want to start off tomorrow night in the Big 12 in a battle of ranked teams, as you're going to have the 20th ranked Wildcats out of Arizona making the trek to Manhattan to take on the 14th ranked Kansas State Wildcats. Now, this is one of those contests here. It's the first official conference game for Arizona as members of the Big 12 Conference. Make no mistake about it that the offenses will be on point in this one tomorrow. Hence why the over-under is 60 and a half on this one. You look at this Arizona offense with quarterback Noah Fafita, running back Quali Conley, and of course, arguably the best wide receiver in the nation right now, Tedoroa McMillan. You look at this K-State squad, okay? They had a solid road test last week, and they won by 7 on the road against a very good Tulane team. And whereas I expect Arizona to try to go out there and throw the football, when you think about K State, it's always this running attack. You look at quarterback Avery Johnson as well as running back DJ Giddens. And then defensively, who's going to step up and make some plays? You got some fine linebackers on this one for both sides. You had Jacob Manu for the Arizona Wildcats. And then you have Austin Romaine for K State. This is going to be a back and forth affair. The last team to possess the football, I think, is going to win this one. And I'm going to take Kansas State at home by the score of 31-29. Now, moving ahead to Saturday, and it's a very interesting slate of games this Saturday in college football. And one that I want to start with, you've got the fourth ranked Crimson Tide out of Alabama making the trek into Big Ten country as they're going to Camp Randall to take on the Wisconsin Badgers. And for Alabama, Kalen DeBoer is taking his show on the road. 2 games in so far, so good for the Crimson Tide on his watch. We know about Jalen Milroe as the runner, but so far, Jalen Milroe has looked better as a passer under head coach Kalen DeBoer, which was to be expected. But make no mistake about it, Alabama can still run the football with the best of them, all right? And you look at Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. The Wisconsin defense is going to have their hands full with them this Saturday afternoon. And you got to keep an eye on wide receiver Ryan Williams for Bama. Then you look at this defense. I know that Alabama lost some guys to the NFL and to the transfer portal, but you think about some of those holdovers on this defense from Nick Saban's time there. You got a lot of talent there, especially at the linebacker position with the likes of Jihad Campbell, Deontay Lawson, and Justin Jefferson. And then keep an eye out in that secondary for Keon Sabb. Now, for Wisconsin and Luke Fickell, this is a big opportunity for his Badgers to get back into the spotlight. Quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, what is he going to be able to do against this Bama defense? And then I really think for Wisconsin in this contest, because they are heavy underdogs at home, they've got to keep it close. And for them to keep it close, their defense is going to have to play lights out with the likes of Elijah Hills on that D line and then linebacker Jaheim Thomas. I said that Wisconsin has to keep it close. They are 16-point underdogs on their own home field. They cannot afford to get into a scoring fest with Alabama. Also, they cannot afford to fall behind by 10 points or more. Why? Because if they start throwing that football, this Alabama defense, I really think is going to tee off. But nonetheless, I am going to take the Tide on the road by the score of 37-24. Now, in an SEC battle, you've got 16th ranked LSU making the trek to Williams-Brice to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks in Columbia. Now, for LSU, the Bayou Bengals, they're looking to get their first conference win of the year, while South Carolina, after beating up on Kentucky last week, they're looking to go 2-0 in the SEC. But I look at this contest right here. Too much talent for Louisiana State. You look at Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback, and you look at the skill positions around him. Tight end Mason Taylor, as well as wide receivers Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson. And then with this defense, Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks at linebacker, Savion Jones rushing the passer. Will they be able to make life tough for the likes of South Carolina quarterback Lenora Sellers and company? I do think so. Now, South Carolina themselves, they have some talent on this defense, led by linebacker Debo Williams, as well as edge rusher Kyle Kennard, and then Jalen Kilgore in the secondary. But it's not going to be enough. LSU's favored by 7 in this one. Take the over, my friends. I'm going to take the Bayou Bengals on the road by the score of 37-20. Now, for Florida State, they were off last week, and maybe, just maybe, that bye week is just what the doctor ordered. We saw Florida State go to Ireland to kick off this college football season. They lost by 3 to Georgia Tech. We saw them come back home on Labor Day night against Boston College, and they got embarrassed on their own home field. They're 0-2. They're 0-2 in the ACC as well. And I really don't think that Florida State at this point has a chance to make the college football playoff. But nonetheless, will they be able to get back on track or get on track against a Memphis team that some people think have what it takes to not only win the American Athletic Conference, but also get the Group of Five's automatic bid into the college football playoff. Now, for Florida State to get on track, they've got to start clicking in all phases of the game, which is something they have not done so far this season. DJU, he is not, he only has one touchdown pass so far this season. That's got to change. Like I've talked about after both of Florida State's losses this year, the Seminoles have to go out there and control the line of scrimmage. You look at this Florida State defense, there's too much talent for the Noles for them to be getting pushed around like they have been. You look at linebacker Cam Riley and DJ Lundy. What are they going to do in this game? No interceptions so far for the Seminoles defense. That has got to change. Why? Because you have a quarterback from Memphis and Seth Hennigan that if you allow him to get back there and get comfortable, he will pick you apart like a Thanksgiving turkey. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Memphis, you got to keep an eye out for running back Mario Anderson Jr. Why? Because if you look at this season so far, if you look at Georgia Tech, their running game gashed this Florida State defense. They were able to control the time of possession. If you look at Boston College, they ran the football right down the throats of the Seminoles, control the time of possession. So I guarantee you, Memphis watched that game tape. And if the Tigers get their running game going, it's going to open up things in the passing game for the likes of wide receiver Rock Taylor. The Tigers also have talent on the defensive side of the football themselves with Chandler Martin and Elijah Herring. I'll tell you like this. Florida State is only favored by 6.5 points in this one. I've been back and forth with this contest all week. It would really not surprise me if Memphis went into Doak Campbell and came away with the win. I'm going to give Florida State the benefit of the doubt just due to the fact that they have had a bye week. Maybe they can cool off, come back, and be better at home. So because of that, I'm going to take the Seminoles by the score of 24-20. Now, one of those teams that has knocked off Florida State so far this season is now ranked in the top 25. And I'm talking about the 24th ranked Boston College Eagles. And they're going to be making the trek to Columbia to take on the 6th ranked Missouri Tigers in an ACC versus SEC battle. Now, the Tigers of Missouri, they come into this contest favored by 16. And of course, they have designs on getting to the college football playoff this year. In 2 games, Mizzou so far has not allowed a single point. They got a lot of talent on this team. You look at quarterback Brady Cook. We know about wide receiver Luther Burden, but then you got to keep an eye out on his running mate in Theo Weiss. You look at Nate Noel coming out of the backfield. And then you look at this defense led by defensive tackle Chris McClellan, as well as linebacker Corey Flagg Jr. But you look at these Eagles, okay, they've gotten off to a hot start under head coach Bill O'Brien. Listen, this man knows how to coach, especially at the collegiate level. You saw what he did with Penn State while they were under heavy NCAA sanctions before he went to the NFL. You've got a phenomenal dual threat quarterback in Thomas Castellanos for Boston College, as well as their running game with Trayshawn Ward and Kai Robichaux. This BC defense, led by defensive end Donovan Ezeruaka, what are they going to do against this Mizzou offense? We've got to wait and see. I know that Missouri is heavily favored at home, but I'm going to take the under in this one. And I am going to take Missouri to win, but it's going to be a close one, 27-24. Now, in a contest that we have been accustomed to seeing in November, in the cold, in the rain, has now been pushed up to the month of September. Why? Because unfortunately, Oregon and Oregon State are no longer in the same conference, but they're still playing nice enough to meet each other on the gridiron. And in this year's edition of the Civil War, the Ducks are going to be traveling to Corvallis to take on the Beavers. Oregon comes into this contest favored by 16 and a half points. The Ducks are 2-0, but they have not been convincing. They struggled with Idaho at home 2 weeks ago. They really struggled with Boise last week, and a controversial non-call helped to bail out the Ducks as they got the best of the Broncos. But you look at this game, there is too much talent on this Oregon team. And at some point, you have to expect all of it to click on all cylinders for head coach Dan Lanning. You look at Dylan Gabriel on offense, running back Jordan James, wide receiver Evan Stewart, and tight end Terrence Ferguson, and then linebackers Bryce Bocher as well as Mateo Uyunglele. Excuse me. Now, for the Beavers, they've gone out there and taken care of their business. It's kind of like an us against the world mantra this year for Oregon State, along with Washington State, as they're looking to rebuild the Pac-12. Talk about that at a later time. But nonetheless, Jam Griffin and Anthony Hankerson toting that rock. What are they going to do against this Ducks defense? And then wide receiver Trent Walker. And then defensively for the Bees with the likes of linebacker Nico Taylor. Oregon is heavily favored in this game. We've seen the Ducks be heavily favored at home in the first two, and they have not covered. This is a rivalry game right here. And when rivalry games come about, you throw the rule book out of the window, especially when you've had two rivals who have been in the same conference for so long and they're not there anymore. You really throw the rule book out of the window. I think Oregon wins, but it's going to be a lot closer than people expect. I'm going to take the Ducks, though, by the score of 30-24. Now, in the Hoosier State, you have the 18th ranked Fighting Irish of Notre Dame traveling from South Bend to West Lafayette to take on the Boilermakers of Purdue. Now, for the Fighting Irish, they come into this contest favored by 10. But I'll tell you like this: how will this Notre Dame team as a whole look after suffering one of the biggest upsets of the young college football season so far when they fell at home last week to Northern Illinois out of the MAC? First things first, Notre Dame's got to get the offense going. New quarterback Riley Leonard has yet to throw a touchdown for the Fighting Irish. That has to change. The Irish have been good enough defensively to win both of their contests. You look at the likes of Drake Bowen and Jack Kaiser at linebacker, as well as safety Xavier Watts. And Purdue's had a week to get ready for this one. They didn't play last week, okay? You got talent on this offense with Hudson Card at quarterback, as well as running back Devin Maccabee, and then defensive end Will Helt. For Purdue, of course, we saw them put up 49 on Indiana State. Indiana State is not Notre Dame. The over-under in this one is 45. I'm taking the under. I think the first team to get the 20 points is going to win. I think Notre Dame's offense still struggles, but I think they find a way to get it done. And I'm going to take the Irish by the score of 20-17. Now in Gainesville, an SEC battle is you have Texas A&M making the long trek east to take on the Gators of Florida. Two teams that definitely want to get a win in the SEC. Excuse me, they're both 1-1. They lost non-conference home games to begin the season, and let's see who has what it takes to get their first dub in the SEC of the season. For A&M, it starts with quarterback Connor Wegman and running back Le'Veon Moss. Can this Florida defense find a way to disrupt the timing for Connor Wegman? We've got to wait and see. Now, for the Gators, it looks like they're going to be going with two quarterbacks for Billy Napier. Graham Mertz is the veteran, but we saw the freshman DJ Lagway lighted up last week against Sanford, and now he's in the rotation. Some will say that if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any. So I want to see how this works for this Gators offense. Do they just simply go with the hot hand, or do they just simply rotate them out? We got to wait and see. Nonetheless, Florida's got to get it going on offense with the likes of running back Montrell Johnson, as well as wide receiver Eugene Wilson. And then for this Gators defense, which includes the likes of Tyreek Sapp and Shamar James, can they find a way to neutralize this Aggies offense? We'll wait and see. A&M's favored by 3 in this one. The over-under is 47.5. But I'm going to take Florida to protect serve at home, as I'm going to take the Gators by the score of 27-24. And just like we're accustomed to seeing the Civil War played in late November, it's the same for the Apple Cup right now, as you got Washington State and Washington facing off, not in Pullman and not at Husky Stadium in Seattle, but Lumen Field, home of the Seattle Seahawks in the great city of Seattle. I think this is going to be a big test for the Huskies because, again, you throw the rule book out of the window when it comes to rivalry games, especially in-state rivals. There's still a lot of talent at Washington. You look at Will Rogers at quarterback, running back Jonah Coleman, as well as wide receivers Giles Jackson and Denzel Boston, along with linebackers Carson Bruner and Alfonso Tuputala. I'll tell you like this. Washington's favored by 4.5. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair, but I do believe the Huskies pull away late, and I'm going to take UW by the score of 34-24. And finally, another in-state rivalry game, as it's old Pac-12 against the incoming Pac-12, and I'm talking about Colorado traveling to Fort Collins to take on Colorado State. We know this. There's never been any love lost between the Buffaloes and the Rams. You just look at last year's contest in Boulder. It's one of those, it could have been a main event on a UFC card. Okay, that's the way that things went down last year in Boulder before Colorado prevailed. You got two good quarterbacks in this one, Shador Sanders for Colorado, and then Braden Fowler Nicolosi for the Rams. This Colorado run game, they still cannot run the football, and they cannot stop anybody defensively either, as Nebraska had their way with them last Saturday night. Colorado is going to be exciting in the passing game, but again, you don't have anything to offset that passing game, and then they have issues slowing people down. I look at running back Justin Marshall for Colorado State. What is he going to do in this game? And then keep an eye out for Colorado State linebackers Chase Wilson and Bohm Jack. Now, Colorado is favored by 7 points in this one on the road, but I'm going to go in the other direction. I'm going to take Colorado State by 10 points. I'm going to take the Rams at home by the score of 37-27. And folks, those are my picks, my key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks for all the support. Truly means a lot. Now, if you are on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. And as always, if you like what you saw and heard on this podcast, please feel free to hit the like button as well as subscribing to this channel. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.